All right, let's take a look at some word problems here. So we got 4 different types. So the first is distance equals rate times time. So this will very common question. Likely that it'll show up. So you'll be given two, like you'll be given distance and time, and you got to find rate, something like that. So let's look at an example. So our question says, if we drove 390 miles, so that's distance. We drove 390 miles at a rate of 45 miles an hour without stopping. So whenever we see miles per hour, that's rate. Okay, 390 miles at a rate of 45 miles an hour without stopping. How long did it take us? Okay, so they didn't give us time. We got to figure that out. So we got all we need to, we have everything we need, and we need to plug it in. So, right, D was 390. We plug that in right there. 45 was the rate. Time we don't know, so let's call that T. Okay, divide both sides by 45. And when we do 390 divided by 45, we get T equals 8.66. Okay, so 8.66, so that's 8 and 2/3 hours. 0.66 is 2/3, and 2/3 of an hour is 40 minutes. And if there's any doubt about how to do that, if you don't, that number doesn't just pop into your head, no worries. Then you just set up a little formula. So 2/3 of an hour is some number divided by 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, right? So if you do that, cross multiply these guys, we would get 3x is 60 times 2 is 120. Divide each side by 3. So we just have x. 120 divided by 3 is 40. Okay, and there's my 40 minutes. So 8 hours and 40 minutes would be our final answer. Okay, so that's distance equals rate times time. That's our first type of question, right? Any little doubt about how to do that, uh, keep using the app, right? Lots of questions in the app. Or if you're struggling with anything, you feel like the app doesn't describe it to you enough, just leave a comment on the YouTube video and we will answer it the best that we possibly can for you. Okay, second type, consecutive events. Okay, so we'll listen to this little story. So consecutive events. So this one says Julia goes out for dinner 3 nights a week. What is the probability that she goes out for dinner 2 consecutive nights? Okay, so when we see consecutive events, we're going to multiply the probabilities together. So she goes out 3 nights a week out of 7. What is the likelihood that she goes out 2 consecutive nights? Okay, so 3/7 chance the first night, and still going to be 3/7 chance the next night. Yeah. Okay, so if they want you to like say that like once she's gone, it would say something if they wanted it to be that the next probability was 2 out of 6, right? So they didn't mention anything like that. So then you're just continue to multiply that same probability together, and we're going to go over one of those here in a second. And then you get 9 out of 49 here. It's unlikely that they would ask you as a percentage. It's likely they would just have a fraction, right? But if they ask for a percentage, we see 9 out of, and it would say like about, it wouldn't say an exact percentage for you. 9 out of 49 is almost 9 out of 50. So it's going to be slightly more than 18% chance that she goes out to dinner back-to-back nights. Okay, so now what I was referencing there just a second ago, like you can easily get probabilities with like card type questions. Okay, so here would be another type of question. What is the probability? So you have a 52 card deck that you draw 2 consecutive aces, let's say. Okay, and so in a deck of cards, there's 4 aces, and there's 52 cards. Okay, so we start off, there's 4 good cards that we want out of 52, yeah? Okay, and 4 to 52, if we divide each of these by 4, can be reduced to 1 out of 13. Okay, so when we start off, and so it's going to say, but so if I draw an ace, or whatever card I draw, I discard it. Okay, so there's a 1 out of 13 chance that I get an ace that first time, right? So let's say I got the ace. Okay, the second time, there's now only 3 aces in the deck, right? And there's only 51 cards left because 1 card's gone because I already got that 1 ace. And then you'd multiply these 2 numbers together, and that would be your answer. So that's how, if it's something like 2 consecutive aces or 2 consecutive numbers in cards like that, that's how you go about solving that type of problem. But either way, we're just multiplying the probabilities together, yes? Okay. All right, halfway there. Let's see what else we got. Setting up an equation. Okay, so I'll read again. These are all word problems, so we'll read it out first. Jennifer is taking a 45-question test and has 60 minutes to complete the exam. Okay, so we've got 45 questions. Let's call that Q. And 60 minutes. Okay, let's see what else they got for us. She has answered 30 questions in the first 40 minutes of the test. What does her average response per question have to be in order to finish on time? Okay, so let's think about this. So there were 45 questions, so she's answered 30, right? So we're thinking she's got 15 left. 15 questions left to answer, right? Because 45 minus 30 is 15. Okay. And she has 20 minutes left because 40 minutes are gone by, yes? So she got to answer 15 questions in 20 minutes. Okay, so without even doing any more work, we should be able to see. So we're always looking like, can we eliminate answer choices before we actually have to do any math? Because it's always possible we might screw it up somehow, right? Or they might have worded it weird or whatever. Okay, so we got 15 questions left in 20 minutes, right? Okay, so that should be, we should know without having to do anything else, the answer is going to be less than 1 minute per question, right? We can see that. Because if it was 20 left in 20 minutes, that would be exactly 1 minute. Because we have less than 20 questions to answer, it has to be less than a minute per question. Okay, so that probably will let us eliminate at least 1. Okay, so again, so we'll put this down here. So 15 questions in 20 minutes equals 15 over 20. Would you agree can be reduced to 3 over 4? Okay, and so that's 3/4 of a minute per question. Okay, what is 3/4 of a minute? Okay, so it's kind of similar. 3/4 if we needed to do that. Let me erase a little bit so I have a little more room. Okay, so if I got 3/4 of a minute, what does that mean? 3 meaning how many seconds is it? Because that's what the answer choices are going to be. It probably isn't going to be 3/4 of a minute. So again, 60 seconds in a minute. Cross multiply. 4x equals 60 times 3 is 180. Divide each side by 4. 180 divided by 4 is going to be 45 seconds. Okay, and that's going to be our answer, is you have to answer 45 seconds. Okay, and that's all we got to know. Okay, so one more. Okay, hopefully all this is making sense. Again, A lot of times people freak out about word problems. It's just taking your time and kind of doing what I'm doing here, which is just kind of like writing out what they're telling us. Okay, the last one is a cost question. Okay, so it says the total cost of renting a car is $25 for each day the car is rented, plus 25 cents for each mile the car is driven. What is the total cost of renting the car for 5 days and driving 250 miles? Okay, so you just kind of start, right? They said $25 per day. Okay, and we're going for 5 days, right? Okay, so that's what we do first. 25 times 5 is 125. Okay, so that's the daily cost right there. Okay, then next it said we're going to drive 250 miles, and it was 25 cents per mile. Okay, so you don't see that too much anymore, but it used to be like that you would see that more often as far as charging per mile. Okay, and that number, when we multiply that out, is $62.50. Okay, and so you've done everything you really have to do, right? Then you just have to add these two numbers together, and when we do that, we get 187 and 50 cents. Okay, so really straightforward there. Is we're just remembering multiply your daily cost by the number of days. So it was 5 days, so that was 25 times 5, and then the mileage, right? It was 25 cents per mile. We multiplied that by the 250 total miles that they said we were going to go. That got us to $62.50. Added them together, got our total. That's all there is to it. Okay, so we did a cost question here, setting up an equation we just did for the 45 question test. We started with distance equals rate times time, right? Have to know how to do that. And consecutive events. With consecutive events, we multiply the probabilities together.